Hey guys, David Acosta here with Achilles Heel Tactical. This evening we're going to be discussing a few things pertaining to low light environments, low light shooting from an EDC perspective as well as from an overt carriers perspective. So when we talk about low light, just think about it from a rudimentary level. We don't naturally see in the dark, right? So we need some form of technology in order to do that extends beyond our natural ability to see, right? So this technology, whether it's a handheld light or weapons mounted light, you can obviously think of the scenario where it would be practical, but that gives us essentially a superpower in that we can see where we normally wouldn't. All right, so tasks that lights help us do. So first and foremost, searching, right? Having the light either on a pistol or in the hand, right? Situationally speaking, contextually speaking, it allows us to help search, whether it's searching for a threat or searching for a person. On an EDC perspective, your dog runs loose, can you see in the dark and be able to see where your dog is, right? Something as simple as that, all the way up to and through having to actually search for a threat because you heard a bump in the night inside or outside of your home. So when it comes to using lights for navigation, it could be waymaking, reading a map, compass, whatever it is, we're using lighting the same way we'd use headlights on our car to navigate the road, right? Like it allows us to see pitfalls, turns, etc. Same thing when we're walking. It allows us to see steps, ice, stuff we don't necessarily want to step in or need to move around. Lights also help in our ability to identify things, right? So for the purpose of identification, if we need to identify a threat, if we need to identify the number on a house, there's a myriad of things that we can use a light for. Again, anything that pertains to being able to see, but specifically identifying people, places, and things. A light from a threat perspective, we can use lights to control, right? So I can use a light to aid in area denial, right? So if a location is well lit, it makes it difficult for the concealed movement into that specific area. So that pertains to houses for security, that pertains to buildings for security, that pertains to personal security, right? Walking through a parking lot, dark parking lot at night, having that light ability just in my hand, being able to light stuff up. Doing it early on just lets people know I'm paying a little more attention than the average bear. This helps in potentially even deterring something bad from happening. Last thing, communication. A light helps with visual communication, right? If you and I are a distance apart and I do one of these, you have an idea as to where I am. Obviously working in a team environment, there could be individual SOPs for taps and lighting different things with the intent of being able to communicate to a teammate, but it communicates in a myriad of ways, right? Anytime I throw that light, anybody on the opposing side of it sees it, and it can be communicating. So communicating something, right? So if I need to flag down a police officer, I need to flag down somebody for help, having that light, even during the daylight, if it's bright enough, I can get somebody's attention. That also helps. So first and foremost, let's just talk about handheld lights. There's a myriad, and we've seen them change throughout the years. We have the old school mag lights that we see, cops from 25 years ago, 30 years ago, carrying those large mag lights that they would also use potentially as an impact weapon. But nowadays with our current tech, those have gone down in size significantly and are far more ergonomic and practical in nature. So if we go back to old school, this is the first light I was issued back in the day in 2004. This is a Surefire Millennium Series M2 Centurion. It's got the Surefire Rogers ring in the center. And what this was intended to do was obviously be able to give us the ability to run the light while shooting a pistol as an option. So one of the originals right here. Progressing forward, we have another Surefire. Again, the P2X Fury Tactical. This is, again, another issued item or formally issued item. I threw a Thyrum switchback ring on there. And the way that works is you just run it through your index finger, and that gives you the ability, obviously, to use the light to be able to see. And if you needed to, you can flip it forward, press up on this little toggle, which allows you to obviously marry up your hands for a more natural freestyle shooting grip. So this is a mod light. Again, has that switchback ring on there. Also a lanyard, that's an option. Some dudes like having the lanyard so that if they let go of the light, they can retain it. Same thing with the ring. If I have the ring on there, it gives the option for, again, being able to run the light as well as being able to switch it out of the way, flip it, marry up my hands with the pistol, and be able to run a more consistent freestyle style grip with the pistol, right? So that I can actually see what's going on there. if the light on the pistol went out or if there was not a pistol mounted light. So we can go through and see that there's a myriad of these. Going smaller into like the EDC side of the house, we have some stream lights. This is a stream light macro stream, and this is like one of those easy to use everyday carry styled lights. They're small. For me, I like a light, if it's going to be an EDC light, I like something that's going to extend beyond the width of my fist, right? That just makes it easy to be able to access the switchology there, the button. It also allows me to use it for striking if need be. This one specifically, I like the clips on these. This allows for clipping to a pocket as well as clipping to a brim of a hat, which allows for something similar to what you would see for like a headlamp. So pretty ergonomic in nature, pretty versatile in that regard. Good throw, and again, for an EDC light, very well done. This precedes it. This is a Streamlight ProTac 1L, and same thing, same concept. Again, making a fist, it extends beyond both ends, so I don't have to worry about pinching myself if I had to use it to strike. It has a strike bezel. I don't think a strike bezel really makes a difference, in all honesty, but some people prefer it. So what I tend to do with my lights personally, these two are the ones I carry every day. I toggle back and forth between, depending on what I have going on, but nonetheless, what I've done here is just tied some shock cord on there. What that allows me to do is kind of stick a finger in there, maintain the light in my hand. If I had to open my hand, if I had to flip it out of the way, I still have access to my hand to be able to turn doorknobs, work finer tasks, and not necessarily lose the light. This is the Surefire Stiletto Pro. So it's got the belt clip. I've added shock cord. You can pull there, lay it flat if you don't want it, but it gives you the ability to stick a finger in there again. If I needed a finger in there, in order to have the retention of the light by flipping it out of the way, doing whatever it is I got to do, manipulations, two-handed pistol shooting, or whatever have you, I have that option, as well as having the option of running the light by itself. So it's just something I found to be helpful for my specific wants and needs. So if you like it, steal it. All right, guys, so when it comes to pros and cons versus compact to full size, with a full size, obviously if we look down range, we get a serious hot spot, some decent flooding, and it throws farther. Full size can still run a gun well with it if you choose, right? Obviously for overt carry, the size doesn't really make a difference, doesn't hurt you there. For EDC perspectives, right, like wanting to be able to conceal these well, carry them well hidden, so to say, it's definitely easier for me to run a compact. I still get a decent amount of light. This is 1,000 lumens on the Stiletto Pro. You can see I don't have that hot spot, but I do have a good clear flood that allows me to see well both left and right side. All right, so getting into weapons mounted lights, specifically pistol mounted lights, we have full size pistol, more styled or more geared towards an overt setup, working its way down to more concealed, more compact. For me, I don't mind the space that the pistol light takes up as far as a holster or on the gear, especially from an overt perspective, really doesn't matter in that regard. I think what you get, pros versus cons, the pros definitely outweigh the cons, right? So with a full-size pistol, there's no reason, in my opinion, not to have a good full-size weapons-mounted light to it, pistol-mounted light. Here we have a Surefire X300, the turbo. That thing really does throw. Our ability to see well, again, you get a nice clean hot spot in the center with some decent flooding on the sides. As long as you have the right holsters, nothing wrong there. Switchology just comes down to like a personal preference. Some guys don't like pushing forward into light. Some guys prefer to push down on a lever. That's just a personal preference. I'd say you pick and choose what's best for you. All right, so another Surefire. This is on a Glock 19X. Again, you can see size-wise, more geared towards kind of an overt setup. You can conceal carry it as well, but the light does extend beyond the muzzle. No issues there. And again, light-wise, your ability to see, that battery's a little low, but you can see it throws well enough that you can positively identify what's going on at a distance that you normally wouldn't be able to do well had you not had that light. Working into more of the compact stuff set for kind of like an EDC setup, we've got two Glock 19s here. Both are sporting the Streamlight TLR 7s. Good light. You get decent ability to see, especially when the lights have full battery power. Another one. decent throw. Again, more compact in its setup, more conducive for everyday carry. Again, it just comes down to, are you willing to deal with the extra weight and the extra retail space that it takes up when you're carrying it inside the waistband? Outside the waistband, no harm there. Inside the waistband, some guys prefer not to have the light for a myriad of reasons. The majority of reasons I hear is that guys just don't want to carry a wider holster and not have to deal with the extra retail space that the light takes up on or in the waistband. All right, so when we start talking about weapons mounted lights, what we see is when we have standoff here, you're going to end up getting those lights dirty. It just happens, right? There's a couple ways to deal with this. Number one, throw some simple green or use some Paragon wipes that we have here. After training, clean them up. Too easy, right? Like not really a big deal, shouldn't be an issue. Take care of your gear, it'll take care of you. And we'll demonstrate that briefly. So just take that little towel out. And very quickly you can see how well that cleans that up. If you're concerned with not having to do this, right, on a training day, you can simply just throw some electrical tape or painter's tape over the actual light piece itself, over the actual lens, and that cleans it up as well, or it prevents some of that carbon buildup. For me, I just use Paragon wipes when I'm done. At the end of my training session, you can see right there, that's nice and clean. All right, so let's talk about pros of a handheld light. Pros of a handheld light for me come down to my ability to produce light, right? And be able to see without having to introduce a weapon, right? Like a lot of guys don't carry a handheld light and have a pistol mounted light and don't realize like, hey, if you need the light, like this may not be a scenario where you want to introduce the drawing of a firearm just so that you can see. So having this light as a primary for non-deadly force scenarios makes perfect sense to me. That's a benefit of having a handheld light, right? So I don't have to unnecessarily escalate force or be potentially identified as a bad guy. All right, also having a handheld light allows me to use it if I needed to in the scenario where I do need to shoot, right? So if I pull out the gun, pistol mounted light doesn't work, right? I have this as a backup, which gives me the ability to light up what I need to light up and see what I need to see in order to shoot what needs to be shot. So pros of a weapons mounted light. The reason I like a dedicated pistol mounted or weapons mounted light is specifically because it allows for a more natural grip, right? The grip that I would normally shoot freestyle with two hands on the gun, the light allows me to do that better, right? When I have a light in my hand, my opinion is that the grip is generally compromised. All the different grips and styles I have found and played with, trained with, I haven't found any that work just as well as having a two-handed freestyle grip. So for me, having a dedicated pistol mounted light is specifically for when the time comes, if the time comes, that I need to use a pistol in defense of human life. The pistol mounted light also frees up a hand, right? So what happens is by not having to have a light in this hand, I have a hand that's free for the purpose of manipulations, reloads, opening doors, checking doorknobs, etc., moving people. That frees up this hand and still allows me the ability to see using that weapons mounted light. So with a weapons mounted light, it's important that you just run a holster that is intended to support that specific light to that pistol. So there's a myriad. This is a Black Point Dual Point 2.0, and this is specifically intended to be worn with a Glock 19 and a TLR7. Whatever holster manufacturer you prefer to use, if you carry a pistol mounted light, any good company is going to provide you those options. All right, so when we talk about grips with the light, there's a myriad. We generally see the variety, right? Like we see everything from having it mounted to my chin, right? I have to be conscious of the fact that when I do that, if the light is behind the pistol, I can create shadow, right? So most guys will offset that and do this, okay? Obviously, we have to pay attention to where that's angling and pointing. Again, the very second my hand separates from the gun, I'm now shooting one-handed. So again, it comes down to just principally speaking, just think about like, if me transferring energy to a target is the solution to this problem, right? Obviously being able to see is important to make sure that's the thing, but I have to be able to transfer that energy well, right? So all the fundamental principal aspects of shooting come into play, right? Like your ability to balance both speed and accuracy. Does you shooting with one hand compromise your speed or your accuracy? depends, right? What's the size of the target? What's the distance to it? What's the scenario that we have going on at play? So working with lights with the rings, right? Index finger goes through. This is intended to provide a more consistent grip that we would have if we were doing two-handed freestyle shooting. It is different, but it is closer than this. It's just an option. I personally don't care for it, but you do what you think is best for you. Going back to the rings, right? The rubber rings on the pistols. Again, you have an option there, getting that grip and then applying that pressure to be able to see. Again, I find those to be, for me at least, less than ideal. So for me, if I have to, let's say my pistol light runs down, what I like to do is grab the pistol here or grab the light here, pistol here. What I'll do is I'll run a fist grip like I would if I was just gonna run the light. What I'll do is I'll marry this hand to this thumb. And what I do is simply this, and we'll demo this live, but getting this grip, slightly angling it, pressing it out, and then creating that pressure allows me to keep a more consistent recoil impulse. And again, I don't like shooting with one hand in a light, one hand in a pistol, but if I have to, I can, right? And just, again, like anything else, it's just a matter of knowing your personal limitations with it. What are your individual capabilities? Run a drill, run a bill drill with no light. Then run a bill drill with a light in one hand, pistol in the other. Then run a bill drill with a weapons mounted light on your pistol and see what that looks like. Compare and contrast all that data and see what that looks like and make the decision what's best for you. So grip with a pistol mounted light, literally the exact same thing. The only thing I'm doing, instead of letting my thumb kind of just float out there, I'm just pressing downward pressure and then illuminating what I normally do. This mirrors my freestyle shooting grip as closely as shooting in daylight options or daylight environments where I can have full visibility and not necessarily see a light. So that's my preferred method, which is why I advocate for having a pistol mounted light. That's just for me. All right, so if we're running a handheld light, no pistol mounted light, right? If we start here, right? Let's say we start here, I'm lighting up what I need to see, and I realize like, hey, it needs to escalate to force. I have to ask myself, right? If I don't have some type of way of holding on to this via shock cord or a ring, a lanyard or something, I've got to hold on to it. Some guys are an advocate of throwing a light. I don't know if that's a great idea, right? Like if I throw that light, pull out my pistol, and realize that that light doesn't work or I don't have one, you can run into a problem there, right? So just thinking about draw stroke wise, when we do this, single-handed draw strokes now become a thing, right? If I really need this light, should I be taking this off to do a two-handed draw stroke, right? So that's something to just think about. If I don't have to take that light off and I can keep it there and provide a single-handed draw stroke, that may make sense. Whether that single-handed draw stroke is a scoop or if that single-handed draw stroke is a grab, wrap, and then draw, right? So just things to think about training-wise. If that's not something you're adding or incorporating into your system, it may be something that you want to look into and potentially provide or add some training time into, right? Build that into your regular system or your regular training routine. Hey guys, so from a training perspective, if we're talking about low light pistol shooting, etc., the reality is like the majority of the training should be done just learning how to apply the fundamentals of marksmanship as it practically applies to pistols, and then all we do is we add, right, the manipulation of the light, whether it's a handheld or pistol mounted. We just add those things into a degree of subconscious competency, but always start off with what we normally do. Can we practice it dry? Absolutely. Right. First learning off, practice it dry, then proof it live, just like we normally would with anything else related to pistol shooting. All right, guys. So not a deep dive, not an in-depth study and lesson on lights, just more or less things to be considering and thinking about for developing your individual systems. If you think this has merit, let us know. Like, comment, subscribe, share, all those things, and we'll be back with more videos.